Welcome to Spark Sessions. I'm your host, Sonya Locke, and this girl is on fire. Today's guest is a connector, a champion of growth, and a force for inclusion in the world of finance. Meg Williams is the Executive Director of ACG Atlanta, one of the most dynamic chapters in a global network of over 100,000 plus middle market leaders. Since stepping into this role in 2023, she's expanded Atlanta's reach across the Southeast, overseen billion-dollar deal forums, and reshaped what leadership looks like in a male-dominated industry. From her early career in hospitality and ministry to leading M&A South, Meg's story is one of reinvention, resilience, and the power of community. She's also the devoted mother to 2 daughters, living the balance of motherhood, mentorship, and mission that so many women leaders strive to master. Meg, thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited to unpack your story. I mean, what a diverse background and what a community gatherer. I mean, like you really build communities and networks, and you're just so wonderful at it. You've lined up every room that I've ever been in and love all of your events. So I'm so excited.
You're
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Cheers and congratulations for all of your accomplishments.
Thank you. Right back at you.
So, Meg, I always like to start off with what we call roots to rise, which is like where you got that initial spark. And your story is so interesting. You've had such a diverse background, but I guess tell me a little bit about your upbringing. And you're from the South, right?
I am from the South. I'm Southern born and bred, from Augusta, Georgia originally. Okay. My upbringing is honestly pretty boring, which I think is a blessing, right? There's no big story there. I had a lovely upbringing. My parents were wonderful, and I had 2 brothers. We all 3 ended up going to Georgia Tech. So that's sort of what originally brought me to Atlanta. And again, we'll talk about this some more later, but at a very male-dominated school,
yes,
to show up as a woman there was interesting, but so fun. Some of the best years, and met my husband shortly after, and we lived in Greenville, South Carolina, for a little bit.
I love Greenville. It's such a pretty city.
It's wonderful. So excited that that's sort of part of our territory now. So I get to go on Monday, actually. So lived there for a few years, and then came back for my husband's job, and started a family, and really stayed at home for quite a few years, just kind of raising my children, and enjoyed those years so much. And then slowly but surely was volunteering over at Peachtree Presbyterian Church here in Buckhead, and the volunteering turned into part-time work, and then turned into full-time work, and 9, you know how that goes. And so 9 years later, there I was still working at Peachtree, which was a wonderful time in my life. So many great experiences, so many things that I learned there. It is a large church. It's the largest Presbyterian church in the nation.
Yes.
So there's 7,000 members.
Wow.
It's just this big church, and about 100 people on staff. So it really, everyone thought, oh, that must be so fun and nice working at a church, and it was. But it's very much like a corporation.
Oh yeah.
So you still have your old biddies around the office, and you have your the people that are always talking and the gossiping, and then you've got the really serious people, and then you've got the jokester, just like in any other office. And then
you have the congregation that you had to interact with, which is extremely diverse.
So and you, in a way, when you work at a church, you almost kind of have to look at the congregation as your customers, right?
Right.
And in every job, right, there's a sales aspect in every job. So we want to sell that this is a great church to belong to. So you're always trying to keep your customers, aka congregants, happy. So it's really not unlike some other corporations that I've worked in before.
It's really interesting. And like I said, I have some experience with Peachtree Pres with there. My kids both did like the preschool and the after sports program, which is huge.
Yes.
I mean, like there's stuff going on there every day. Like, did you have a lot of involvement with trying to build that community there?
Yes. So, I had various jobs over the time that I was there. Worked with all of the staff there, just incredible. I miss them. I still go by and see them. It is a fantastic church, and the ministry of that church is so far reaching, not just because it's a big church, but because of the work of the staff there. There's so many programs that people, there's a gym there, there's a gymnastics and dance, there's a preschool, there's a nursery, there's so many parts of the community that use that church for various reasons. But we kind of always tried to reinvent and come up with new ideas, and that was fun for me. That was when I think I first sort of found my love for events.
Yes. And I bet I can totally see you as a volunteer that's probably volunteering on everything.
Yes.
And then of course that leads to where, oh, Meg, can you help with this and do this? And then to where you just finally had to take a job with them.
Yes. It morphed over the years. And then I think by the time I left, I thought, I can't believe I've been here for 9 years. But they were a great 9 years, and everything from running the nursery to the children's ministry and running the volunteer program. So many different things. COVID was a whole different barrel of laughs, really. That was a total reinvention. So many things were shut down.
Right.
And so we really had to be creative with how we were going to reach these families. Most of my time at Peachtree was in the family ministry. So whether that was with the children or the nursery or the parents, the baptism program, there was just so many different things going on that I really kind of got a taste of everything. And I learned something in each of those jobs.
I was going to say, how did that really shape you to who you are today and bringing that into ministry? Like that and motherhood, because that's another thing that we talk about a lot is how a lot of women take off for that time, especially when their kids are young, but that actually helps their professional career.
I think so. I think I always say everyone should be a waitress or in the service industry once in their life. I just think it builds character. And I say the same thing about women, if you can take some time, not everyone can, but if you can take some time to be a stay-at-home mom, that will shape you. It's not all roses and laughs and cuddles with your kids. There were many days where I met my husband at the door with both children and said, here, you take them. It's exhausting. It is by far to this day, the hardest job I have ever had.
Yeah.
But it was the most rewarding. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's very true. And I think, if you can experience that once in your life, it will shape sort of how you go into your career and the way you tackle things in your career is
Right.
totally different once you've experienced that.
So how did you get from ministry to running Association for Corporate Growth here in Atlanta? How did you get into that finance world? It's a lot of finance people.
Oh, couldn't
at
be more
ACG.
Different, right? It is I talked about that, the church was sort of like a corporation. So there's that aspect of it. I think there's that aspect in every job, right? But I think it was just really kind of a fluke, to be honest. I had kind of started to get to that point. My girls were teenagers and they didn't need me to be at the bus stop at 2:00 every day and just frankly didn't need me as much anymore. So rather than crying myself to sleep over that, I thought, well, let's see what can we do? What else is out there? I had been at the church for a long time and kind of, like I said, had done so many different things. Unless I was going to pursue ministry as a career, which was not my plan. My pastor is wonderful, but that is not for me. I just started to kind of put the word out, and Peachtree is such a huge place. And so, I really used my network, and a friend who happened to be a board member of ACG Atlanta went to the church, and his wife had mentioned to him, and, it's just convoluted how that happened, but it was a wonderful thing. And he said, yeah, there's this group called ACG. And I said, what is ACG? And he explained everything to me, and here I am, almost 3 years in, and absolutely love it.
Yeah, and you bring so much to it. I mean, your personality and your natural community building. I think that that's a huge part of what you do, and I think that you brought that to there. But when did you find out that was kind of really your purpose? Is this connector?
I think that is something that's always in whatever job it is, even as a stay-at-home mom, I was the social chair of the neighborhood. I wanted to get all the moms together because I knew that was a difficult time for us, right? Raising our children. And in the job at the church, I wanted to get moms together there, wanted to get families together and introduce people. And it was just something that I think always kind of came naturally to me, that I wanted to connect people. And I think it stems from this need for harmony. I've always had that. I do not like conflict at all. I will run from conflict. But harmony is really important to me. And I want everyone to be happy and joyful and bringing people together. And I see so much good in you, and why should the two of you not know each other? And I think that's just something, for better or worse, that's always been a part of me.
Yeah. Well, I think in business, your network is one of your most valuable assets. And a lot of people don't recognize that how important that is. Like, you're not just learnings, but connections that you make with people from different groups and industries that you don't know are connected. And all. I think that you once said that you consider your job part matchmaker
yes.
and part event planner.
Absolutely. That is 100% correct. That is what this job, and what's funny is so many people from my past will say, now what, I've seen you posting about your job. What is that? What is ACG? And what do you do there? And I asked the same question when my friend from the church told me about the job. I said, what is ACG? And a lot of people don't know unless you're in the finance world, but ACG stands for Association for Corporate Growth. And it's a networking organization for middle market mergers and acquisitions folks. So anybody that is involved in mergers and acquisitions. So our membership is made up of investment bank and private equity and hedge funds and all the other folks that you need to make the deal happen, all of our advisors and accountants and attorneys. So it's really this financial networking group. And I had no idea how big it was. There are 61 chapters all over the world.
Wow.
Mostly North America. And Atlanta's probably the 4th or 5th biggest.
Wow.
We've got a little over 500 members here in Atlanta and over 15,000 globally. So it's a huge organization. And, I didn't know anything about finance. That was not my major in school. I had never had a job in finance. And so I remember telling my friend Jeremy, I said, I don't know that I could do that job. I don't know anything about finance. He said, no, but you speak events fluently.
Yes.
And I said, well, yes, that I do. And he said, that's what this is about. He said, you can learn the finance later. He said, you are bringing people together. That's what you're doing. You are bringing people together so that they can do deals together. And I said, oh, so I'm a matchmaker. And he said, yes, sort of. So that's what I love to tell people is that I'm a matchmaker. I throw the parties, I get you in the room, and the rest is up to you. So,
well, I think you definitely are. So I'm involved with ACG on the business side because we were part of Fast 40 for the last 3 years. And so you're bringing business leaders into this M&A world with, like I said, accountants and deal planners and private equity and all these groups together and saying, okay, let's connect the dots and events. You do great events. Many events.
Thank you. So many. Yes.
I know. Ever since then, it's like you guys have an event every month. And
we
it's
do.
Always
we
good.
do. We do like 35 or 36 events a year.
Wow.
So there's always something going on, and it is, there's something for everyone, right? So it's everything from a 3-day conference with 1,200 people to we've rented out, below the chop at the Braves Stadium, and, we're going to do a Braves game. So, or a happy hour or a breakfast with a panel of speakers who are giving a market update. So there's really something for everyone. And this past year, we really incorporated the Birmingham network and the Greenville. We talked about Greenville. It's called Upstate South Carolina. Those are sort of, we call them baby chapters. They're networks, but those roll under us too. So I get to do events there as well, which is really fun for me.
That's super fun. And I'm so glad with what you bring to the table with ACG and your background and your hospitality. But no, it's a great match. A great match. They match you very well.
Thank you.
So that kind of really leads into the next segment, which is one of my favorite ones, is like the burn, right? Here you come walking in from a ministry background, being, Miss Event Planner and community thing, to very serious people in this M&A world and finance. Like, how was that? How did you get through that challenge of finding your voice at the table and to be heard?
It was a little bit of a shock at first. Before we started rolling, I was just telling you, I didn't have a business wardrobe. I hadn't been in that business world in so long. And so there were some pretty stark differences that I remember the first couple of weeks. I am a hugger, right? So I had to sort of check myself and say, these people are business people and they are used to shaking hands and different things that you kind of you realize that this is a different world and these people are different. But I have to tell you, I think after the first couple of months, I thought, I need to be this and I need to be that, and I had to kind of check myself and say, no, you know what? You be Meg. Be Meg, and if you're a hugger, that's who you are. If that's your personality, that's who you are. They hired you for this job for a reason. So be that. And I think that's really important. We're always kind of in these different situations, and we hear a lot about imposter syndrome, right? And I know you've talked about that with some of your guests. And do you ever feel imposter syndrome? I feel it right now because I've seen your prior guests, and I don't know why I'm in this chair, but I'm thrilled. And I'll just tell you, I think the best way to overcome that is to truly embrace who you are and be you. Don't try to be anybody else. And I think I kind of embraced that, and now people know that. And it's funny. There's one older gentleman that's part of our group, and every time I saw him, he would, reach out his hand, and I would, of course, awkwardly go in to hug him. And now every time I see him, he just comes in for the big bear hug. So, if you are yourself, maybe you could have an impact on other people. It might change how other people react, for the better, possibly. So I think that's a big thing I had to sort of coach myself and say, just be you.
I think that's brilliant advice. And like I said, we talk about it. I ask everybody, it's like, how do we stop the imposter syndrome? I think every woman has it, or at least 75 to 90%.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I think it's more like 90. But yeah, I think you have to embrace what it is that got you to that position.
Absolutely.
And who you are, and not try to hide it.
I think another thing that I learned with the imposter syndrome is, you've heard the old adage, picture everyone in their underwear, and all these tricks of the trade and that sort of thing. I think just remembering, and I sort of do this when I walk into an event and I'm meeting new people, remembering that everyone is human. Everyone, you have no idea what that person is going through. And not reading the book by its cover. I sound like a bunch of cliches right now, but they're true, and they're cliches for a reason. Just remembering that everyone's human and getting on a level with them that you feel comfortable. So for instance, when I first started having these events, and I would walk up and introduce myself and talk to people, and knowing they're in a finance background, and they would say, oh, what do you do? And all of that. And do you know about EBITDA and all the acronyms that are in that threw me. My Google search history that first month was humorous. It was like, what is dry powder? What does EBITDA stand for? And that was when I finally started thinking, okay, I'll pick up that along the way, but let me talk to them about something I know about. So I would ask folks, tell me about you. Tell me about your family. Where'd you grow up? Do you have kids? What do you do on the weekends? And I actually think it was refreshing.
Yeah.
So many of these folks in this business are all day, every day, talking about numbers and finances and rates and all of that. And I think it was, in a way, sort of refreshing for them to have someone say, where are you going on vacation this summer?
Right.
You know, so meeting them where you are and saying, this is what I know. Let's talk about that. And it's worked so far. I have picked up a few more acronyms and financial terms so that I don't
Any
sound
fun corporate lingo?
Yeah,
There's so many that it's nowadays. It's like insane.
It is unreal. So I had to learn a lot of that, enough so that I feel like I can carry a conversation now about it if I need to.
Well, we can circle back to that if
Okay,
you'd like.
let's circle back. Yes, we'll touch base on that later.
No, I think you bring so much on that, and you are right. It's like, it's kind of also the adage of people, like when you first meet them, especially in America, which is very different in Europe. Yeah. Hi, what do you do? Like, what's your career?
Yes.
And it's like, that's not the whole definition of you, right? Yes. And trying to get people, how could you be a good matchmaker if you can't get to know about them personally as well, what their drive is?
And there's so many different ways to get to know them. The events are a great way, and you can talk at the events. I have always said, if you can see where someone lives. Sorry, cut that. If you can break bread with someone or see how they live. I don't know if you can visit their home. That's one thing I love to do. I will invite anyone into my home, frankly. And it is certainly no Taj Mahal. It is not a beautiful home like yours, Sonya. But I have always been comfortable with that. I think that brings people to the same level when you can just do human things like breaking bread together or driving somewhere together. I just think it allows you to really see who someone is and particularly seeing where someone lives. I think that's a great way. I host things at my house all the time, and I love to do that just because I think it shows people who you are. And I love to learn more about who other people are by, having a meal with them or visiting their house and just not seeing just that office person, right?
Yeah. And let's talk about your events, because you have massive events and they're very creative. Like, you've gotten so many more creative events this year, but you're often on the stage, you're often speaking, you're really kind of the energy of the room. Right. Is that a burn or is that fuel for you?
It can be a burnout is what it can be. So you have to be really careful and kind of guard and protect your time. We on my team, we kind of have a joke, and at the end of an event, we'll say we're peopled out.
Yes.
And I get energy from that, but I also have to replenish that. So I think particularly for somebody to whom that does not come naturally, that burn can happen more quickly. It doesn't happen as often for me, but it does. And I have to be really careful and cognizant of that and be on the lookout and make sure that I'm replacing that energy.
Yes. Because like I said, your conferences, sometimes they're 16-hour days. How do you balance that?
Absolutely. A lot of coffee, for sure. And I have a great team. That is essential. I know you know that.
Yes.
That is essential to having these events. We have a lot of support staff that comes in and helps us with these. And I think biggest thing really is you got to, when you're in events, you got to roll with the punches.
Right.
And you've got to be as prepared as you can be so that when those things pop up on the day of and the plants aren't delivered or the caterer's late or whatever, you're able to spend that energy fixing that problem, putting out that fire, because everything else is buttoned up. So I think that really comes down to like preparation and organization and having that great support of a great team alongside you.
Do you have plan B, C, and D when you come to an event, or do you just pivot very quickly on your feet?
I should probably. So I should have some extra full-on plans. I pivot quite a bit, but I think sometimes, at least in mind, if not on paper, what if this happened? What if this happened?
Yeah.
I just was at a conference recently and sat through a session that was, what to do when the unthinkable happens. And it was not a fun topic, but it was, active shooters. It was hurricanes. It was, whatever it could be. They mentioned Katrina, all of these different things that can happen. And those aren't fun to think about, but you really do kind of always have to have that, at least plan B.
Yeah, like actually at the Women's Business Council conference this year, it was right after the attacks. And
Yes.
the whole first part of the meeting was, okay, here's security, here's like, it's a single entry. And it was like very much on the security side. That's unfortunately a reality in our day and age now that we have to kind of think about those. And
you do. And it's not, like I say, not a fun thing to think about, but better to be prepared. And it really did get me thinking. And so, I had to sit down with my team and said, all right, we need to really make sure we've got a plan, for particularly for our large events. When we have the conference out at Avalon for 1,200 people for 3 days. That could be a huge disaster opportunity.
Right.
And so just being prepared for that safety wise and all the things that are not fun to think about. But
yeah. And it's a good balance, though. It's having the fun and stuff. What's the worst thing that happened to one of your events that you had to pivot crazy?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I haven't had a really true disaster. We did have catering just not show up to an event one time. We were having it at someone's office, and the delivery driver delivered it to, it was a skyscraper building, and he left it outside of the front door of the lobby. So we still to this day are like, what was he thinking? So I think the homeless community there where we were really had a wonderful filet mignon dinner that night. So that was
there's a positive spin.
There we go.
That's a very positive way of a bird.
Feed the community that night. So we still laugh about that I could just see all of them opening the boxes and going, wow, this is a great dinner. So we pivoted and I, called someone else, and they were able to get there very quickly. And, I think humor is really important in situations like that. And if you know me, humor is just a big part of me and my personality. And so I you have to own it. And so I just said to the guests, I said, guess what? Dinner's not here, but we've got some on the way. Have an extra drink, and we'll get you an Uber home. So you kind of just have to embrace it. I think rather than trying to cover up, just own it and embrace it.
Yes. That's very good advice. Is there anything that you, I guess, are unapologetically saying no to? Or has there ever been a time when you had a no that turned into rocket fuel that made you revive?
The first thing that comes to mind is like so many people during COVID, and this was again at my prior job at the church. Most of the churches shut down. We weren't allowed to meet, and so some of our big things that we do, obviously Easter and Christmas are big events for us. So rather than the typical Christmas pageant that we always did with hundreds of children and costumes and all of that, we weren't able to do that. And so we really had to be creative, and it was fun. It was fun to work that creative muscle again. And rather than just the routine of doing everything like you'd always done every year prior. And so we came up with this big, elaborate, very expensive plan. And I credit our staff at the church who let us go for it. But rather than sort of the inside the church Christmas pageant and all of that, we created this thing called Journey to the Manger. And it was all around the perimeter of the church, and we built sets, and each one was a different step, riding the donkey from Nazareth, all the way to the end where we had, the Mary and Joseph and the baby. And it was incredible. And it was one of those moments at the end, we all sort of just were in tears at what we had created. And it actually became a tradition. So even when we were allowed back in the church, people say, you're going to do that Journey to the Manger thing again, right? And we did. So out of those no's, I think always can come something beautiful.
I think it can too. We always talk about how our challenges always actually is where we learn the most.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
No, it's perfect. So Meg, your path did not, like you said, come straight into finance. It came from community building and from hospitality and things. But when you look at what you're bringing to this industry, it kind of brings a bigger question. And this is really our burning question. And it's more a societal one, to get your opinion. But in today's era, we've talked a lot about women finance in terms of VC funding. Only 2% of women get it for VC funding, and less than 4.4% of women of color can get VC funding.
Right.
And then also 10% of senior private equity roles are held by women.
Right.
Yet statistics show in diverse deals or diverse teams versus all male, they have a 12% higher internal rate of return. And also in senior leadership, like, one of the finance I was talking to the other day, you have like 59% of the workforce, but when it gets into like senior leadership roles, it's like 29%. So how does someone from a non-traditional background coming into this world of finance, I guess, help improve the story and make it more inclusive, or break down these barriers in a male-dominated industry? You see it on both sides. Where do you see as like the barriers, why they're not rising to the top as fast?
Absolutely. I think, this is that age-old dilemma, right? Is why is this? Why are we still at these statistics? Why are these still true? And it's just this kind of age-old dilemma. But I do have hope, and I do see that it is getting better. That is at least professionally what I am seeing more of. And I think, when I came into this industry, we had a joke. We called it the Blue Blazer Brigade.
For sure.
So many of our men are members, and so that was sort of the ongoing joke that, there were a few women there today. That was great. We're really trying to drive that. We have women's programming. We have an event, during our conference that's just for women. I know you and I are headed to Raleigh
Yes.
for the Southeastern Women's Forum, where you will be speaking. I can't wait. So we're really trying to incorporate that. It's funny, on the flip side, I also have women that are in our group who say, we don't need separate events anymore.
Really?
So I have heard that. I think they want to be treated just as the men are. And so, we kind of hear it from both sides. So, I think people are sort of saying, this is who I am. This is what I can bring to the table. Take it or leave it. Don't worry about whether I'm, male, female. I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier is, you have to be you, and,
Right.
and you have to prove, and maybe we have to prove a little more. And is that fair? No, it's not. But I think we have to prove what we can bring to the table. And I think men in general, lately, I think they are starting to realize the different perspectives and the different experiences. We talked about being a stay-at-home mom, just being a mom in general, what that brings, what that teaches you. That's something that, the men never experience. And so in a way, I think being a woman is a privilege. And I think if you can look at it that way and say, there's more pressure. But the tennis great, and I won't remember her name, but that said, pressure is a privilege.
Yes,
And
I love that.
I think that's true. It's a privilege that, we get to bring our experiences, and that we get to have those experiences.
Yes. And I am very excited about the Raleigh Forum. I went to
Yes.
it last year. Then this year we're going to do a kind of live Spark sessions, which
Yes.
is super great.
I can't wait.
And talk about mentorship. And
Yeah.
that's really what a lot of it is as well, is because, I agree that, like I said, I can have different forums, but it's different when you're at an all-female conference of leaders. It's like a
Yes.
much more, there's not a lot of competition, and it's much more talking about how do we support each other, and you feel more supported.
There's a buzz in the room
There is.
Yeah.
There is. It's a very different feeling whenever I go to a women's conference versus a regular one.
Yes. And we heard that a lot last year from everybody who was there. It was such a comfortable, everyone's guard was down. And because it could be, because you knew that everyone in the room was there to support and pull you up with them.
Right.
And that was such a great feeling. It was just personally and professionally. That was a great event. Probably one of my favorites.
It was really, really fabulous. And all the events that went around it, like the
Yes.
dinners and all that. No, it was such a really empowering event. And I think that's another part of it. I know that you've started some mentorship programs at ACG as well. And I think that's also important. Like, how are we bringing that next generation to where it's like, oh yeah, you have a seat at the table, like it's here,
Absolutely.
versus, just coming in and leaving.
Yeah, we are seeing more and more young people in this business. And so again, we've kind of just started to embrace that and say, they're here. Let's make them feel welcome. This is the next generation of private equity, investment banks, deal makers in the community. And so a couple of things I've noticed that have started to happen. The more we have kind of had programming for them, we have a program called the Emerging Leaders program. And they have their own events that they do. And once we sort of gave them that ownership, they took it and ran with it. And it is a bustling program now. So they do several events throughout the year. What I love is one of our board members, who's a senior leader, has sort of adopted them, right? He's like, I'm going to go to the kids events. He calls them, they're not kids, but he has hosted them at his office. He has really taken on that mentor role, and he's brought some of his colleagues around with him, right? So now these younger folks that are coming to our events, they're seeing someone who they've had a conversation with, and that person is pulling them along. And I think that's just important in anything in life, right? That you have someone who's been there before that can help walk you through that. So that's become a huge part of ACG Atlanta, and I love seeing it.
Well, I think it's great because, like I said, we got to figure out how the solution to the tail off. I do think that I see it changing a lot. I mean, in my career, I was always the only one standing up on the stage or the only one in the room. Now there's a lot more, and I think that we're seeing that. We're seeing more female entrepreneurship and definitely some growth, hopefully in STEM. But there's still a lot of work to do, is getting women in there. And like the statistics don't lie, right?
They don't. We want to see them improve, and we are seeing them trend in the right direction, maybe not at the speed we would like, but I do think it is heading in that direction. But there's a lot of work to be done.
Well, I think, like I said, the statistics also of diverse teams actually having better success and better investments. I think it's a perspective. Having different perspectives make a better deal.
It's huge, and in a deal and in life to have those different perspectives.
Yes. So now this is another part. We get so much inspiration from this is kind of fanning the flame. I mean, you burn it at a lot of different levels. Big events, motherhood, learning all these EBITDA and acronyms, and like dealing with like blue suits and stuff like that. How do you, I guess, keep your flame burning and kind of recharge, like you said?
This is, I wish, my family will see this maybe, but they would laugh at this question. I do go 100 miles an hour a lot and often, but I also go 0 to balance that. Of course, balance is what we hear about all day, every day. I am striving to have more of it. But one thing, I really do recharge my battery and refill my tank, because if you don't, then, your level of performance at the next event is just not going to be great. And it is easy to burn out. I mentioned earlier, my team and I say we're done peopling. Yeah. There are some times, even for extroverts, that you need to reset. And so my family calls that, at my house, they call that island time. My bed is my island, and it is my happy place. It is immediately where I go when I've checked off my to-do list. And so sometimes that's in the middle of the day on a Saturday, and I will stay in my nightgown on my island. And I really stress to my girls, I want them to understand there's a difference between laziness and recharging. Yes. So they can look the same sometimes, but take that time to veg out and binge and watch a show, have a little bourbon, whatever it is that's your thing. The spa, I love to go to the spa to recharge. Those are important and they're necessary. So I would not be able to do 35 events a year, all the time, and meetings and conferences and all of that without the island time. Yeah, I love that. Island time. That's such a great phrase. Don't bother mama. She's on island time. My daughter calls it tummy time. Tummy time.
And so every time during the day, she's like, I'm in my tummy time. Nobody can bother
I
me.
love it.
And that's like,
I love it.
But I think the power of pause is extremely important, and never feel guilty about that. If you're giving so much to
Right.
others,
Right. I
take
think
your island
that's
time.
really important, is not feeling guilty about it and not feeling like lazy. And I think in today's day and age, it's such a competition of how busy you are. I'm so busy, and that's like, you're such a hero. That's not a hero. Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to have that downtime, and that downtime, I think, is when some really beautiful moments happen for me, at least as a mom. That's when my girls might come in and sit on the end of the bed and say, Mom, let me tell you what happened with this boy at school today, or whatever it is. And without that, if I was just going, I would miss that, and that would be incredibly sad.
I think those moments of reflection are super important.
Yeah.
And having that private time, especially with your family
Yeah.
and everything,
Absolutely.
and you can't be everything to everybody.
100%. You
Yeah.
nailed it on that.
What about mentally? Like, what's a mantra that keeps you going when you feel like everything's coming at you, like something that just
What
helps
gets
you?
me off of the island is, I don't know who said this. I'll claim it. I may get in trouble for that later, but I heard this years and years ago. But the mantra is get up, dress up, and show up. And that sounds easy on the surface level, but there's something behind getting up, and even a routine of that. Get up, make your bed, open the blinds, drink some coffee. Be happy that you're vertical, that you're above ground. Getting up, and then dressing up. You and I both love to talk fashion. I think that's how we first connected. There's an art to that, and
Yes.
there's also a mental aspect to that, and you look good, you feel good. It's a process, and it's a routine that you go through, and it sets your brain, I think, for the day. Not every day. If you're having island time in your nightgown, that's okay too.
I was about to say, I love the counterbalance of that. That's the perfect balance. Is
Absolutely.
True island time. I love the name for it, by the way.
Yes.
And then get up, stand up, then dress up or whatever, and show up. I mean, I like that.
Showing
so
up
it's like both
is
sides.
the most important, right? Is showing up, and whatever that is, showing up to an event, showing up to work, showing up for your friends, showing up for your family, your kids, whatever it is. And it's sort of, that goes back to kind of sticking to your word, right? If you've said you're going to be somewhere, get up, dress up, and show up.
Yeah. I love that. I love both sides of that story. So I think this is really what Spark Sessions is all about. And that is passing the torch and advice that you can give to the next generation kind of coming up. I mean, like your two beautiful daughters. What do you hope they've learned from you? What kind of leadership?
I hope they learn something from me. They would tell you right now, nothing. They're teenagers.
I was about to say they're teenagers.
Yes. So I have nothing of value to give them except my wallet. I hope that they will see that love is just a big part of our family. It's a big part of our faith. It's the cornerstone of our faith, right? Is love others. And so I think that's something that I talked about. I hug everyone. I love everyone. I'm probably a little like a puppy dog, maybe a little naive at times as well. But I think just entering into your day with love, and just knowing that everybody's got stuff going on, but we're all human. We are all going through things, and everybody's just doing the best they can. And so if you can just come at that from a place of loving people first, I think that, I don't know, it shapes your framework for the day. So I hope they will remember that about me. I hope they learn, the art of hospitality. That was the torch that was passed to me from my mother at a very young age. I can remember her walking me around the dining room table and showing me about place settings. And she was always just the ultimate hostess, and she passed that torch to me. And I mentioned earlier, I love hosting things, both personally and professionally. And I hope that's something that's passed down to both
I
the
think
girls.
it's an important skill. I love hosting too.
Yeah.
I always open up my doors and say, everybody, more the
Yes.
merrier. It is. It's. I don't know. It's gratifying, and it's rewarding, and especially when you can pull it off and stuff. But I'm always last minute on things. I'm sure
Yes.
you're not. But
Sometimes yes and sometimes no. But regardless, I think the art of welcoming people into your home or your work event or whatever that may be is not, at the end of the day, the food and the decor and all of that. It is, do they feel welcome and do they feel loved?
I think building a network and community is such an invaluable part of our life that you really, it really is an enriching part of your life.
Yes.
So if you could go
absolutely.
back to yourself going to Georgia Tech, coming up from Augusta, what would you tell that girl that started college there?
Oh gosh, I think I would first say this is just the beginning, and I think my other thing would be, it's just not that serious. It's just not that serious. Zoom out. If you can, I always tell my girls that, zoom out. I tell my husband that. When you can get so hyper focused on something that is just not that serious.
Yeah.
So rolling with the punches, zoom out. Don't take things so seriously.
What I didn't ask you, what were you studying at Georgia Tech, or what were you wanting to be?
I studied business at Georgia Tech,
Okay.
which is ironic because it's an engineering school.
They have a business program as well there. My father actually graduated in industrial business.
Yes.
Yeah, there.
So I loved it. It was fantastic. My brothers were there. My older brother was there with me at the same time, and he was an engineer, and the younger one was an engineer. And they both turned out to be attorneys. I was a business major and ended up working at a church and now with ACG. So, again, majors to me are where you are at that point in life. So don't put too much stock in those.
Yes.
Don't let that railroad you into a particular career.
No, and you never know where it's going to lead you. And I think when you embrace yourself and you step back and you kind of say, what am I really good at? Like you are really good at building those connections and that network and that hospitality.
Thank you.
That
You're sweet.
it is a value in business, and it's a value with ACG and all the leaders that you touch and you bring together. It is truly a value.
I hope so. I hope they think that. I hope my boss is hearing that right now.
Okay, so now's my favorite section as far as sessions, which is the fire round.
Okay, I'm ready.
First thing that comes to mind, super simple. I hope you didn't get the questions ahead of time. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. Coffee, tea, or cocktails?
Cocktails.
One word that describes your leadership style.
Empathy.
Dream dinner guest, living or dead?
Oh gosh. Living, Matthew McConaughey. Dead, Frank Sinatra.
Oh, that would be cool. What if you had them both? That would be a really good dinner
That
party.
would be one hell of a dinner.
Man, that really would. I could just, all right.
That'd be great.
Okay, guilty pleasure.
Taco Bell.
I love Taco Bell too.
Taco Bell.
That and Island Time, right?
Taco Bell on Island Time is the entire day for Mother's Day. Just so you know, that is our tradition. Yes.
Really? Are you serious?
And I have Taco Bell pajamas. I do. And I stay in them all day. And they bring me Taco Bell on a tray to the island.
Oh, that is so...
the best Mother's Day.
That is so fun. Well, actually, this goes to the next one. Last show you binged?
The Girlfriend on
I
Netflix.
haven't seen that one.
It
is it good?
Diabolical. It is amazing.
All right. Favorite Atlanta restaurant besides Taco Bell?
If I'm not going to Taco Bell, let's see. Bones is such a great classic. La Grata. I love La Grata.
Oh, I love La Grata.
It's an old one.
It is so good.
It's good.
It feels like you're going into
back in time, right?
But it feels like you're going into an assisted living facility.
It does. So I know the outside is not great, but once you get down there,
the downstairs and the food,
and it's just that old school service,
yes,
and just that elevated level of service. I love.
Yeah, you guys need to print it out for ACG one time and just do a whole event there. That would be fun.
That would be great.
All right, one thing that's always in your bag.
Oh, lipstick for sure, because it can double as blush, which I think is the most underrated makeup item.
That's true. I always have lipstick in my bag. Several. Morning person or night owl?
Oh gosh, night owl. My team's going to laugh at that. I am the worst morning person. Always have been. I thought as I got older, I would start to become more of a morning person. Nope. And my sweet, sweet husband does the mornings every morning with the girls, packs the lunches, everything. I am beyond blessed.
Yeah, no, you are. I totally do not do mornings at all. The only time I do is when I come back from Europe, and then I'm like on a different time zone. So it's
For
like,
sure.
it feels like, oh, I'm being productive for a
sure.
change.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, stay up all night, but cannot wake up in the morning.
Same.
That's awesome. Thank you. You were so fun. And okay, one last question. The song that makes you always want to get up and dance.
Oh my goodness. Mr. Big Stuff, maybe.
Good one. Good one.
I don't know if that's my answer. That really was off the cuff.
Okay, final question. I ask everybody this. What is your one truth? That one spark that keeps Meg going day after day?
The more, the merrier.
Oh, I like that.
So work, home, everywhere. I think everybody has something to add and a different perspective to bring. So the more, the merrier.
That's actually perfect. I mean, like so I want to thank you again and say how, what you've proved is that leadership is about that connection and about that hospitality. It's not just a supplement to it. I mean, you have accomplished so much, and it's like your spirit that really does keep the business world going here, and hopefully it keeps the next generation. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. And right back at you. Thank
Bye.
you, Sonya.
Thank you for tuning in to Spark Sessions. Until next time, keep the fire burning.